Today, we're diving into a very specific, highly debated retirement number, $900,000. Is it a fortune? Is it a fast track to going totally broke? Well, our goal today is to completely demystify exactly how this number works out in the real world. We're going to strip away the panic, skip the hype, and look at the honest math of exactly how $900,000 can actually fund your retirement. Let's get into it. So, is $900,000 enough to retire? It's a headline you see everywhere online, and let's just acknowledge it right out of the gate. It causes a ton of anxiety. People are constantly wondering, do I need $2, $3, or even $5 million just to be secure? Let's be totally clear from the start here. $900,000 is not an infinite amount of money. You're probably not going to be buying mega yachts with it, but it is a very real, incredibly solid foundation for a comfortable life. The core truth of our whole explainer today is beautifully simple. The number isn't the plan is the plan. I really want to reassure you right now that the exact balance sitting in your investment account isn't some magic answer that guarantees success or failure. What actually matters, and what ultimately determines your happiness in retirement, is how you build a solid, intentional strategy around that number. All right, Section 1, the base retirement math, starting with the 4% rule. Let's look at the foundational math that we're going to build everything else on. Financial planners often use the 4% withdrawal rule as a baseline. So, if you withdraw 4% of your $900,000 in year one, you get $36,000 a year. Divide that by 12, and you're looking at exactly $3,000 a month. Now, this is usually the exact moment most people completely panic. $3,000 a month sounds incredibly tight to live on for the rest of your life, right? But wait, almost everyone leaves out a massive, absolutely crucial piece of the puzzle here: Social Security. You don't just rely on portfolio income when you retire. You literally have a second paycheck waiting for you. Look at how this changes things. At first, you have that tight $3,000 portfolio income. But when we stack average Social Security earnings on top of it, which often range between $2,000 and $3,500 a month depending on your work history, your total household income suddenly jumps up. You're now looking at somewhere between $5,000 and $6,500 a month. All of a sudden, that is a real, comfortable, highly livable retirement income for most parts of the country. Moving on to Section 2, geography and healthcare, the controllable levers. So if the balance itself isn't the problem, what actually is? Well, it all comes down to the lifestyle choices we make. Let's look at two totally different realities using the exact same $900,000 nest egg. On one hand, you have a paid-off $250,000 home in a moderate cost of living area. Your monthly housing costs might just be a few $100 for property taxes and insurance. On the other hand, someone with the exact same portfolio, but carrying a hefty mortgage in a high-cost urban area, could be burning through $2,000 a month or more just to keep a roof over their head. It's the exact same money, but wildly different realities. So, the absolutely crucial point here is this: relocation frees up hundreds of dollars a month without touching your investments at all. Downsizing or moving somewhere with lower property taxes is a controllable lever. Honestly, it improves your monthly cash flow far more effectively and safely than desperately trying to chase higher stock market returns just to pay an expensive mortgage. But hey, housing isn't the only trap out there. Consider the timeline of early retirement. If you retire early, say at age 60 or 62, and Medicare doesn't actually kick in until age 65, you are sitting in a very dangerous multi-year window that we call the gap zone. That gap zone is uniquely dangerous to your plan for three big reasons. First, you're required to buy marketplace healthcare plans before age 65. Second, those premiums climb steadily as you get older. By your early 60s, full-price health insurance can easily cost well over $1,000 a month for a couple. Third, and most importantly, this needs a dedicated budget line item. If you don't budget for this separately, spending 3 to 5 years in this gap zone can completely drain an otherwise perfectly good retirement plan. Okay, Section 3, surviving market crashes, uncontrollable portfolio risks. We've talked about what we can control. Now we really have to talk about what happens when the market turns against you. The absolute danger here isn't just that the market crashes, but when it happens. This brings us to a critical concept: sequence of returns risk. It's the danger of market downturns occurring early in retirement, permanently reducing the portfolio's base while withdrawals are actively being made. Think about it. If your portfolio shrinks in a crash and you still need to pull out your $3,000 a month, you are literally forced to sell more shares at a loss just to get that same income.
Let's look at a very stark comparison to really make this click. Retiree A and retiree B have the exact same $900,000 and the exact same average market returns over 30 years. But retiree A experiences a market crash in year one. Because they're pulling money out of a shrinking base, their portfolio never recovers. Retiree B, however, gets that exact same crash, but in year 25. By then, decades of growth have created a massive cushion, and the crash barely even dents their plan. Timing really is everything.
So, how do we defend against this terrible timing? Well, here is your primary defense. Step 1. Build a 1 to 2 year cash buffer for all your essential expenses. Step 2. Use that cash during early market downturns instead of selling your investments when they're down. Step 3. Let your portfolio recover completely before withdrawing from it again. That cash buffer is the ultimate shield that turns a catastrophic market crash into just a temporary inconvenience. Which brings us to Section 4, the decumulator mindset. The identity reframe. We've handled the math, we've handled the risk, but this next part is honestly the final and most emotional obstacle of the whole shebang. The hardest part of retiring isn't actually the math. It's making a massive psychological shift. Look, for decades, you've been an accumulator, saving every single penny, watching the balance go up, obsessively protecting it. Now you must become a decumulator, someone who intentionally spends their saved money down on purpose, shifting from protecting a balance to funding a life. This identity transition is genuinely disorienting and pretty scary for most people. But this offers such a profound reframe. Every withdrawal isn't a loss, it's the plan working. When you see your balance decline, it naturally triggers a lot of anxiety. But you didn't save that money for 30 years just so the number could sit there and be admired on a computer screen. Spending it means the money is finally doing the exact job it was meticulously saved for in the first place. Let's bring all of this together. Our income-based math shows us that $900,000 combined with Social Security generates a really solid $5,000 to $6,500 a month. To protect that income, you manage geography and healthcare to control those expensive gaps. You hold a cash buffer to defend against market risk and bad sequence timing. And finally, you intentionally shift your mindset to become a decumulator who spends on purpose. Which brings us to our final question for this explainer, and it's a big one. Are you ready to spend what you built? If you have this solid foundation, it's time to stop endlessly obsessing over getting a bigger number and start finalizing your actual plan. Get specific, embrace the honest math, and let this money finally fund your well-earned retirement. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I really hope this empowers you to see retirement in a whole new, structured light.